Don't know much about him. I haven't paid attention all that much, to be honest. He'll have his hands full, and he'll have a good support system there too, with obviously Auston. He'll have lots of support around him, so he should be fine.
He hasn't played a single National Hockey League game yet. Not one shift. Not one shot on goal. And already, the most dominant player on the planet is handing him a warning label. Gavin McKenna. 18 years old. The first overall pick of the Toronto Maple Leafs. A kid who was supposed to spend this summer celebrating the biggest moment of his young life. Instead, he's standing in the middle of a storm he didn't start and one he can't control. Because Connor McDavid opened his mouth. And when Connor McDavid speaks, the hockey world listens. Here's what he said. McKenna, McDavid warned, will have his hands full in Toronto. 5 words. 5 words that traveled across every timeline, every sports desk, every radio show in Canada within hours. But McDavid didn't stop there. He wasn't trying to scare the kid. He said McKenna looks prepared. Said he's got a support system most rookies could only dream of, a locker room with Auston Matthews already in it. On paper, that's balanced. That's fair. That's the kind of comment that usually gets a nod and moves on. Not this time. Because one man in Toronto media wasn't having it. Not even a little. Sid Seixeiro heard McDavid's comment and something in him snapped. He didn't just disagree. He went after it. He said the greatest player of this generation has, in his words, no clue what it actually feels like to play under Toronto's specific brand of pressure. Think about the audacity of that statement for a second. Connor McDavid, captain of the Edmonton Oilers. A generational talent who was anointed the face of hockey before he even played his first professional shift. And a Toronto broadcaster just told him he doesn't understand pressure. So what is this really about? Is it about McKenna at all? Or is it about something much bigger, a decades-old argument that never actually goes away in this country? Let's rewind for a second. Because to understand why this exploded the way it did, you have to understand what Toronto actually is in the hockey world. It's not just a market. It's not just a fan base. It is the single most unforgiving spotlight in the sport. Every mistake gets replayed. Every slump becomes a crisis. Every rookie who comes through that city carries the weight of a franchise that hasn't lifted the Stanley Cup in longer than most of its fans have been alive. McDavid knows pressure. Nobody's arguing that. He arrived in Edmonton as a teenager with the weight of an entire hockey nation on his shoulders, expectations piled so high before he'd even proven anything. That's real. That's not nothing. But Seixeiro's argument cuts differently. He's not saying Edmonton is easy. He's saying it's consistent. Steady. Predictable, even in its intensity. Toronto, he argues, is something else entirely, a city that can be dead silent one week and a full-blown firestorm the next, the second results start to slip. That's the disagreement. That's the fault line running straight through this entire story. And here's the part that should make you sit up. Neither one of them is talking about McKenna's talent. Nobody is questioning whether this kid can play. Everybody, every scout, every insider, every analyst agrees he's special. This isn't a debate about skill. It's a debate about survival. Can talent alone protect an 18-year-old from a market that has swallowed grown men whole? Or does experience, real, lived, breathed experience, matter more than anything a highlight reel can show you? McDavid's answer leans one way. Seixeiro's leans the other. And somewhere in the middle of it stands a teenager who didn't ask for any of this attention, who just wanted to lace up his skates and start his career. Because make no mistake, this kid is walking into pressure most 19 and 20-year-olds never face in their entire careers, let alone before their first game. Training camp starts soon. Then preseason. Then the lights go all the way up when the regular season begins. Every single one of those moments will be treated like a referendum. Every good game will spark hope. Every bad one will spark panic. That's Toronto. That's what McDavid was warning him about. That's what Seixeiro says McDavid doesn't fully grasp. And through all of this noise, there's one thing worth remembering. McKenna isn't walking in alone. Auston Matthews is already there. A dressing room built around him, at least according to McDavid, ready to catch him if he stumbles. Maybe that changes everything. Maybe a strong locker room is the one thing that can soften a market this brutal. Or maybe it isn't enough. Maybe nothing outside actually living it can prepare a person for what's coming. That question, the one nobody can answer with a hot take or a viral clip, is exactly why this story refuses to die. Every great Leafs prospect for years has walked into this same argument. The market versus the talent. The noise versus the nerve. McKenna isn't the first to face it. He won't be the last. But he might be the one who finally settles it. Because here's the truth nobody wants to admit. Podcasts don't decide this. Panels don't decide this. Twitter arguments don't decide this. This gets decided in October, under real lights, in real games, when the story stops being about opinions and starts being about performance. Connor McDavid says the kid is ready. Sid Seixeiro says nobody's ever truly ready for this. And Gavin McKenna, 18 years old, carrying a city's expectations before he's played a single shift, is about to walk out onto the ice and give us the only answer that has ever mattered. Not what people say about the pressure. What he does under it. Let's sit with what Seixeiro actually did for a second. He didn't just disagree. He looked at one of the most respected voices in the entire sport and told him, flatly, that his read on this was wrong. That takes something. And it's not baseless, either. Seixeiro has covered this city for years. He's watched rookies arrive with all the hype in the world, only to disappear under the noise within a single bad month. When he says Toronto is different, he's reporting from the inside of it. But McDavid isn't some outsider firing blind. He's lived a version of this himself, an entire fan base deciding his career before he'd played a meaningful game. So when he says McKenna looks ready, that's not empty praise. That's a warning shot wrapped in respect, coming from someone who survived his own version of it. So who's right? Maybe that's the wrong question. Maybe the real story is what happens when two completely different definitions of pressure collide in public over the same 18-year-old kid. Somewhere in Toronto right now, Gavin McKenna is watching two grown men argue about his future before he stepped onto NHL ice. Imagine that. Watching the greatest player alive praise you, then watching a Toronto broadcaster tear that same comment apart on live television, using your name as the battleground. That's the exact pressure Seixeiro was describing, playing out before McKenna's even suited up for a preseason shift. And this is bigger than hockey. It's a test of a theory that talent alone is the great equalizer, that if you're good enough, the market simply doesn't matter. Toronto has run this experiment before. Prospect after prospect walking in with can't-miss talent, some handling it, some buried by it. The city remembers every one. That's the shadow McKenna is stepping into, simply because of where he was drafted. Two respected voices. Two different truths. One teenager caught in the middle, and the only person who can actually settle it hasn't played a single regular season shift. Training camp is close. Preseason is closer. And when October arrives, none of this will matter anymore, not the comment, not the rebuttal, not a single word spoken this weekend. Only the games will matter. Only Gavin McKenna, on that ice, in that city, under those lights, gets to answer the only question anyone actually cares about. Is he ready? We're about to see it for ourselves.